am remembering who I am.
Alright, last night we made it to Curt Gowdy State Park, and this is the sunrise. I don't know if the camera does it justice. Been a while I was sitting out, hanging. Some of our fine feathered friends came out. Do some grazing.
Evading terrorism to spare him from life in prison. Salam Hamdan's sentencing hearing resumes today in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. NPR's John McChesney reports.
During the sentencing phase, both sides are allowed to present witnesses.
Here we are traveling through Wyoming, and I just learned on the radio that it is the 50th anniversary of Jack Kerouac's On the Road, which kind of inspired me to say a few things about the beatniks and alternative movements in general. First read On the Road, I was 16 years old. My uncle let me borrow his copy, and as soon as I read it, I instantly wanted to go and travel, me and my car and the road, and experience different things, and meet other new people, and really just have a grand adventure here in North America. But what happens sometimes with alternative lifestyles is they become very popular in the mainstream, like the beatniks did. And I think inherently, though, the original beatnik lifestyle was probably something that could only work for a small amount of people. And unfortunately, it kind of grew into this larger movement that didn't have the core trappings of the original beatniks. When people think beatniks, a lot of the time they think of the black turtleneck, sunglasses, beret, poetry with bongos and snapping your fingers. But On the Road, it's very different. People are just wearing t-shirts and blue jeans and driving really fast down the road, and it's a lot different from the final phase of beatnik, which had a lot of just the peripheral trappings of that subculture. I think one of the main pushes of the book too is that you can find your way in the world. You can find a type of freedom in the world that is defined by you personally. And what happened was that lifestyle then was co-opted by the mainstream and made popular just to sell products. So this is something that we can definitely learn from. And the beatniks and the hippies have a lot in common that way, where originally they both kind of had their core beliefs, and then these trappings of flower power and the drugs and the rock and roll were kind of peripheral parts of the intellectual philosophy behind them. And a lot of that was left behind just for the flash and glamour of the movement. And there are things that do reside from both of those movements today, but a lot of people that maybe could have been introduced to those core values didn't have anything to hold on to, and they just dropped all that hippy-dippy flower stuff and went back to live the typical taker lifestyle. Since we kind of have a cultural movement going on, what can we learn from this? Well, first thing we can learn is really what our core values are. I believe at least two of them are that we are members of the community of life, and how that affects our perceptions of the rest of reality. And second of all, that we need to stop waging war on the earth and converting biomass into human mass. The one thing that we can do is promote a diverse amount of solutions beyond those core values. what happened with the beatniks and the hippies, where they also kept all the peripheral unnecessary cultural trappings and applied it to themselves, when those lifestyles probably could only remain in small groups. And what we need to do is we need to spread our core message as quickly and as well as possible, and then allow people in bioregions to find their own specific solutions for their own specific problems. Again and again we'll hear people saying, well, that's not going to work for 6.5 billion people. Well, obviously the very core ideas are designed to be general and to work for the 6.5 billion people. The peripheral stuff, the stuff that moves away from the core values, are things that can only be deciphered locally and by communities.